Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV for the final time in the 19th season of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans Championship. We're at the 10th and last round of the season here at the Circuito de Jerez. What a fantastic circuit this has turned out to be for V8 racing since it was added to the iRacing service about a year or so ago. Looking forward to seeing who will be crowned champion, because despite his incredible form this season, Scott Gamble isn't quite out of the woods. There are three other contenders that may very well take the championship from him tonight. He's got to be on his A game. Hopefully you're here with us for the whole run through as we bring you this championship finale live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner, with Dan Yeaman alongside me in the comms box and also handling production behind the scenes. Dan, this is one of the best parts of any season in any championship for me, the finale, especially when the championship is still up for grabs.
Yeah, it sure is, Reese, and we've had the privilege now of covering the V8 Veterans Championship since season number 14 of this series, and almost every single season has come down to the wire. It's going to be hard to top what happened at the end of season 18, at the end of last year. Which, part of me started this year at Mugello when that was recently added to the service here on iRacing, and Mike Talianich to be able to win that one on count back from a tie on points in the final race of that season earlier this year to kick things off. But I mean, yeah, certainly whilst it has been Scott Gamble's championship to lose very much for the longest time of this season, it is up for grabs. And yeah, this circuit here tonight, I got the chance to see some very good racing here last night with Logitech G Pro Invitational Series. And whilst it's certainly a different crowd, we do have a couple of drivers. Actually, it might even just be Scott Gamble. And it was Michael Whiting at one point as well, who are both in that Pro Invitational field. So we'll see how they go out there tonight as they do another race around this place. Slightly shorter, so they'll hopefully not have as many laps to worry about. But yeah, it's despite being a track very much known for its open wheel and motorbike Grand Prix escapades, it is certainly a track that is a good test for these V8 touring cars here in virtual Spain.
Indeed it is. Plenty of overtaking opportunities, particularly at turn 1 and 2. Down at the dry sack hairpin at turn 6, which is the infamous place where Jacques Villeneuve and Michael Schumacher collided to decide the 1997 Formula One World Championship. You can also get moves done into Angel Nieto at turn 9. Of course, we are not running the motorcycle or Grand Prix chicane layout for this race. It's just a sweeper through turn 11, which certainly tests the tyres here. And finally, down in turn 13 at Lorenzo, named, of course, for Jorge Lorenzo, you'll be able to put some moves if you so desire. But before we get into tonight's action, Dan, we should probably talk about how things stand in the championship. We are, of course, broadcasting split 1 here, and after 9 rounds completed, Scott Gamble is in the lead, but not by too much. He's only 51 points ahead of Kenneth Latter. Of course, we've got, we'll talk about that other graphic in just a couple of moments, but this is how the championship is at the moment. Chris Smart and Matt Vanderkraan equal for 5th. It's going to be a dead heat between them, but look at how many Fishy Motorsports cars are in the top 5. That's pretty incredible.
In fact, they lock out the top 5 short of Scott Gamble. They're sitting in P1. Yeah, apparently I've had 2 copies of the same graphic loaded up. That's not ideal, but yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see here. Yeah, certainly, whilst our eyes might be on that top step of the podium, we're definitely going to have to keep our eyes on drivers in the middle of the pack as well here. Whilst these drivers here in the top 10, unless they have an absolute bomb, they should be safe in all things considered, because yeah, that other graphic, if you caught your eyes on it and you've seen it in the last couple of rounds, it's our battle to stay in the top 20, the bubble as we like to call it here when we're talking about it, because if you're in the top 20, you are able to remain in the top split of the V8 Veterans here without needing to re-qualify for this top split of the series. So for drivers who are looking to continue to put together a good season's worth of racing, this is where you want to be. And as you can see, it's now Troy Stonestreet who holds that bubble position, but he's got only 9 points behind Travis Hunt in 21st. So that's only 5 spots difference on the road between the two of them, at least when we're not talking about major placings out front. So that will be one to watch out for, is whether Travis can have a good night tonight to jump himself back up and stay in top split, as we've seen him pretty much every time he's been out here, or whether he'll have to go through the long way again during the break between this 19th season and the start of season number 20 next month.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be very tight no matter what part of the field you're in. In terms of the permutations for the championship, we've done up a little calculation for you all. Scott Gamble, in order to take the championship, basically needs to finish the race in 22nd place or be classified in 22nd place, completing 75% of the race distance. For Kenneth Latta, he needs to score at least 52 points more than Gamble, or if Gamble finishes outside the top 22 in this race, he needs to win. Michael Whiting, meanwhile, needs to score at least 116 points more than Gamble, 65 points more than Latta. They both DNF. He has to finish 32nd. And Chris Miller needs to finish 27th place if all of the other three DNF to win the championship. So, you know, there's a couple of those permutations that are less likely than others, but for Kenneth Latta, he's still very much in the box seat to take the title at the final round if something goes wrong for Scotty.
Yeah, it will require something major going wrong, which we haven't really seen all that much in the past. But look, yeah, I cannot count it out, and certainly not be looking to make a mess of things by quote-unquote, say, jinxing any of the drivers out there on track. So that's one for me to be mindful, of course, as always, here in this series. Well, speaking of how things could play out here tonight, here's what they've got to get through first of all before we can talk about the championship in a provisional, albeit final state. It is going to be a 46-lap, 200-kilometre affair around the Circuito de Jerez tonight, and critically that 75% number for the classifications, whether it's our drivers here at the front of the field or those who are fighting for the top 20 or anywhere else in this standings. 35 laps completed you must do to get points here tonight. They're on 50 litres of fuel to start this race. We'll have all of the tank available to them in the pit stops. So what it means is we're looking at about a full tank of fuel needed across your two compulsory pit stops here tonight, Reece. So we'll see how things work. Whether this track, expecting fairly even strategies to be the order of the day once again. It has certainly been the favourable strategy in the race. But as you see there at the bottom of the information graphic, depending on your fuel burn, anywhere from the end of lap 14 through to lap 16, you can fill it up and make it home to the finish if you're good on tyres. Well, that is certainly going to be probably an outlier strategy here tonight.
Yeah, I think so. The blue line that we see is probably going to be closer to what most drivers will run, anywhere in the bracket from lap 14 to 20, and then around about lap 29 to 38 is the rough window that we are going to see most drivers stopping tonight unless they have a problem early. If, for example, there is an early race safety car, or if there are any drivers that have gotten damaged and fallen down the order, then we're likely going to see them come in at that first tick up on the red line around about lap 2, and then they might very well commit to an early second stop to the end. There's a lot to think about going into this race, plenty indeed, and well, one thing that we always count on with V8 Vets is strategy playing that big part. I'm wondering what our championship top 2 will be having in mind, because looking at the qualifying standings at the moment, Ken Latta's only 5th, with Scott Gamble taking provisional pole position, so maybe Ken's going to want to try something different tonight.
Yeah, may be the case, and presume in that case it'll be an undercut we might see out of Ken Latta to get himself some track position to make the most of it here. Qualifying almost over. Speaking of, we'll get the grid information up as soon as we can once the session ticks over. But I mean, yeah, that's just about it in terms of our pre-race information we normally talk about here, Reece. We've actually sped through it all in the 10 minutes of qualifying, which leaves us about 5 minutes of warm-up to settle in and think about getting ready. Of course, there's also one final Chubby Buns Burgers Driver of the Day award to hand out here this season. One of our newer partners here officially with the V8 Veterans Championship. Last time out, we gave it to Michael Stewart in the Hypersonic Racing 919 after he was able to finish 5th place. A tight battle in and amongst the back half of the top 10, and able to see him climb up there to P5. So we'll see how he goes again tonight and who will be our last driver to get that recommendation here on the grand scheme of things. Well, I can hear the roaring of cars peeling away out the back of the field for warm-up here. And I've just realised we might go to the grid in a couple of minutes' time
Yeah.
Here's Scott, because I've got to get paints loaded. I may have just realised. So make sure everyone's in there to spend their appropriate paint schemes.
Of course, of course. Well, we'll enjoy some nice sweeping shots of this beautiful circuit in a nice region of Spain. The region around Jerez is known for producing sherry, and it's a very big part of the world for fortified wines. And I do enjoy me a tawny from time to time, so maybe I'll pick up something from Jerez when I have the budget to do so. But regardless, there's a lot of history around this place. That 97 F1 finale for one, but also the fact that this track has enjoyed two different layouts over the course of its history. Actually started out as a much twistier track. The run out of turn 4 used to actually be an S-bend, and the drivers would negotiate a couple of kinks and a chicane on their way down to the dry sack hairpin. But when the track was modified in 1994, it was simplified quite a bit, just to allow for potentially some better racing, a longer run into that dry sack hairpin. But yeah, you see the run out of turn 4 there? They went right immediately after it, and there was a chicane around about where the Lorenzo text is there on our graphics. So I think a lot of these drivers will be happy that the circuit layout was changed, because I think this simpler layout definitely suits the V8s a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I had back at some of the historic track, that track configuration that used to be. So yeah, so almost, I guess I describe it as a sort of a staircase sequence in that opening part of the circuit as you come out of turn 4, and it made for a very short run down the back straight into the dry sack hairpin, and I think that certainly would be a case of interesting but not as ideal as it once was. Just double check in here, see have we got paints loaded for everyone? Not quite. What I might do is do one quick shutdown over things there, and we'll get that booted back up, and then we should be all good to go. In the meantime, we might actually want to start talking about the grid, and I'll get the graphics up and chase you down the field as soon as we can here, Race. It's definitely, I'm impressed to see tight on the front row. It's been a couple of weeks of Scott Gamble looking really, really strong in qualifying. Things have changed here, it seems, tonight, at least on the first half of things.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the first row of our field is going to be Scott Gamble and Matt Vanderkraan. Remember, if you flick your memory back to when we looked at the standings, Matt Vanderkraan was equal 5th in the championship alongside Chris Smart. So that's a massive gain there for Matt Vanderkraan. Hopefully he'll be able to hold on to that. He's had some really strong rounds. I think back to his run at Watkins Glen some weeks ago, and how well he did there. So maybe Jerez is going to smile on him as well. There's only 0.04 of a second separating our front row. Gap much narrower than we've gotten used to here in the V8 Vets Championship. It's certainly been the Scott Gamble show at the front, with Kenneth Latta trying desperately to chase him down. But yeah, our top row is certainly going to be competitive, making their way down to turn 1 at the start of the race. Jeff Thomas is going to set the fastest time in the warm-up session for the time being. Only 2 drivers have set times, he and Jamie McKnight. 30 seconds will remain in the warm-up as there's more drivers making their way across the line there. But we do have the grid up here with Gamble and Vanderkraan on the front row. John Latham with a great qualifying position. 3rd place, starting alongside Chris Miller, who is still in the running for the championship if things go his way. Latta will start in 5th alongside Hypersonic Racing's Michael Stewart, who, as Dan mentioned, got the Chubby Buns Burgers Driver of the Day award last round. Paul Warwick and Paul Burns. It's an all-Paul 4th row right there, with Jeff Thomas starting in 9th place alongside Dan Hall to round out the top 10.
Nice result from Dan Hall there. Don't usually see him, or haven't seen him qualified super strong this season, so that's impressive. Likewise, Mark Point, one of his better qualifying results this season. They're out of 11th place. Going to share that 6th row with Scott McCune in the second of the Hypersonic Racing Machines. Chad Lewis, decent qualifying for him in 13th. Going to be sharing that 7th row with Dean Flavel, the first of our WKMP Sim Sports Supercheap Auto Machines. Christian Smart there. 15th place for the 999 machine. He's sharing that row with Rob Chrisdale up in 16th here to kick things off. Greg Sharp, David Kirby in behind there, 17th and 18th for them. And then our top 20 will be rounded out by David Nash and Damon Fisher there in the 801 Sim Racing Commodore and Quantum Pecky's Racing Mustang, respectively there, Reece.
Stewie Hall is going to bring car 49 out of 21st place alongside Quantum Pecky's Racing Stephen Varga in the 868. Jason Fewens is going to start in 23rd place in the Banter Alliance 067 Commodore. Certainly one of the many striking liveries that we see in this race. And Fewens is going to be sharing that 12th row of the grid with Jamie McKnight for Fishy Motorsports. Travis Hunt is going to start in 25th place alongside Luke Grundell, that brilliant SLS Racing 057 there. Rick Vigor going to start alongside Damian Cairns, who's had some good performances this season. He's going to have to work his way up from here. Ricky Hyde and Michael Quain will round out the top 30, and then we've got Chris Blanchard and Darren Goosey just outside the top 30. Robert Griffiths was the last car to set a time in qualifying. Rob Baxter and seems Anita Buckland not setting times in practice or qualifying. So it looks like we're going to be having a 33-car grid for the field tonight as we check out our Zoom wall. David Kirby up there in the top left is likely going to join us mid-race for an interview. So looking forward to having a chat with David Kirby somewhere along the line, Dan.
Yeah, that indeed. Jeff Thomas, top right of the gallery here in Zoom as well. We got a chance to speak with him after last week's race at Portimao as well. His teammate Travis Hunt there, middle left of your screen. Dean Hunt, the heart rate monitor and information there on his feed. And Jason Fewens, our fifth and final driver here on Zoom tonight. We'll make sure to check in with every single one of them across the course race. And of course, we'll try and catch up with everyone in the field here at some point during the event. As the clock ticks down inside about 30 seconds before we go green here, Reece, for this final round of the season. 200 kilometres, 46 laps on the schedule for this one here. Look forward to seeing who can take it away. The final time for season number 19 here in the RaceKraft Simulations V8 Vets Championship.
Scott Gamble versus Matt Vanderkraan on the front row. Will the Commodore or will the Mustang get the best of runs into turn one? Scotty Gamble has been high on form this season. I would expect him to get the best run off the line and lead into turn one, but we've been surprised before and will certainly be surprised again. Final round of the championship is ready to go. Revs rise, exhaust lights up, and away we go. Scott Gamble will get a clean start, but have a look at that. John Latham and Funky Miller will both get better starts there. Vanderkraan's going to get shoved wide in the first turn here. Down to third place. Miller might get him on the inside coming into turn two, and he certainly will. Ken Latta also behind them, trying to make up positions. He wants this championship. He wants to steal it from Gamble in the final round, but he's going to have to work around the outside of Matt Vanderkraan, and there's just not enough grip off the racing line.
And it looks like, that's caused a bit of a moment there. Rick Vigor coming into the pit lane, so timing tower up there, it does reset. So a bit trouble there for one of the Angry Birds racing machines. As Rob Crisdale, after one of his best qualifying results, actually no, he's still moving, but just jumped on the radio there, down the spot to 17th place. As here we come into dry sack for the first time, front of the field through A-OK, and it looks like it's single file for the most part here as they negotiate this opening hairpin run.
Yep, nice flat curbs around the Circuito de Jerez. That's a motorcycle circuit through and through, so you've got to be careful of the off tracks. You can use quite a bit of the off tarmac curbs and painted tarmac there, but you need to take care. As looking at Vanderkraan, he's just had a little lock-up. He's lost touch with Kenneth Latta, and now he is in the clutches of Paul Warwick in the 050 as they're almost at the end of this first lap. Try your best to keep the weight on the fronts and negotiate these fast sweeping corners. Scott Gamble has gotten his race off to a fantastic start, but John Latham right at the end of the first lap, locking up in the hairpin. He's lost a bunch of time. Scott Gamble is going to lead by 1 second at the end of the first lap.
Solid start for him indeed, as get this opening lap in neat and tidy. No safety car means compulsory pit window opens here on the end of this next lap here, lap 2. So we'll see if anyone needs to bail in early, get compulsory pit stop done soon enough. But it is nose to tail running here all throughout the field. Greg Sharp, though, the 747 is slow at turn 2 here, Michelin. I think we might have ourselves, well, not a full-on crash, but definitely a moment there for the 747. We might want to go and grab our first RaceKraft Simulations replay of the evening here real quick. See what's happened to this WKMP machine.
Yeah, looks like some heavy battling between Scott McCune and Christian Smart up ahead of Greg Sharp here, and I think Greg was caught out by this tight fighting. Coming into turn 2, he just completely misses his braking point and locks up the rears trying to get it slowed up. Fortunately, it looks like no one else was involved in that, though it certainly came close.
And you talk about close indeed, but tick the box. Everyone keeps moving in the right direction, and we carry on here on lap number 2. So that's at least a good sign for now, as out the front of the field is 1.5 seconds now for Scott Gamble. He's making this look like it's a pretty easy start for the race. John Latham up a spot into second, as he's now got Chris Miller hustling in behind there. Only half a second, not even between the two of them. And Ken Latta there as well in 4th place. As you spotted elsewhere.
I've spotted a mechanical black flag for Rob Crisdale. He's pulling into the pits as we speak, and that's a disastrous start for Crisdale from one of his best qualifying performances in recent memory. I'm not sure exactly where he picked that up, but it might have been in the melee on lap 1 with him reporting that to race control. Crisdale's going to have to take quite a bit of time here to get that car repaired. He's going to take service, obviously. Good opportunity to get it right at the start of the pit window, but he's locked himself into an early second stop from here.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for sure, as see him get away and head off down the pit lane once again. See if I can pick up anything there that might explain what's happened. To be able to go to a replay, but if I can't, unfortunately we'll have to leave that one to the ether of all the things and start this one off. So the gap starting to grow at the front. One's getting out towards 1.6 seconds, and half a second back to Chris Miller, half a second back to Ken Latta, the top 4. Then we're looking here at about a second apiece for Matt Vanderkron and Paul Warwick, who's back out here tonight, and Michael Stewart though right in behind him, so starting a bit of a train in and around here, next half of the top 10. Mark Poynton there in 29 show.
Indeed. I've just checked Rob Crisdale's first 3 laps, and aside from him getting clipped by Scott McCune lap 1, turn 1, I'm not seeing much. He might have glanced off the WKMP Commodore we saw spinning earlier. I'm not too sure what would have gone on there. No, he didn't. So it must have been Scott McCune running into him. Regardless, we've got battles going on here on track at the moment. This is the fight for 6th spot. Paul Warwick holding off Michael Stewart, but not by much. He's got an angry train of cars behind him. Dan Hall, who's made up 2 spots from his 10th place starting position. Jeff Thomas and Mark Poynton also chasing behind. And you never know, if they slow each other up over the course of this battle, they might bring in the next pack of cars. Lewis, Flavelle, McCune, and Smart. This battle could go all the way down to 15th.
Yeah, it could. It just sort of varies a game of how long do you stretch this out. At the moment, there's about a second back from Mark Point to Chad Lewis between 10th and 11th. So that will interrupt that one there for a second. You see here, from that angle, Paul not really getting as good a run through the dry stack hairpin as Michael Stewart, although that might just be a case of not trying to work the tyres too hard on that particular occasion, as they'll come into Angel Nieto at the top end here of the circuit before they head back to the start-finish complex.
Yep, got to negotiate this double right-hander. It's so hard to keep the weight on the fronts through there. The track is nice and smooth. It's a technical circuit, but it's very easy to understeer around here, and you can see that there's already quite a few tyre tracks going through the gravel trap there. Warwick almost added to it. He is feeling the pressure here versus Michael Stewart, but they're not too far away from the top 5. You know, obviously Gamble has jetted away to a very strong lead, but Jeff Thomas here fancies a chance at Dan Hall into turn 1. He has a little look, but they extend the line out. on the way into this first turn. Plenty of early pit stops I'm seeing. Luke Grundle and Michael Quain went in on the last lap. Now we're seeing Rob Griffiths making his way into the lane as these guys continue to duke it out on track.
They do indeed. In on the cars through turn 4. Come up into Cito Ponds, and they're going to so here with the cars really having to lean on the tyres here. Short ratios around this circuit. They go still in 4th gear, and then we're up into 5th, and it's going to be a short blast in 6th for the run here. Top speed just under 250 kilometers an hour, it seems, as we come into the Jerez hairpin once more. And how's that there for different lines? Dan Hall backing up the exit a little bit. I should say back up the entry in the middle there to get a better exit in that occasion, which does work out in his favour pretty nicely.
Yeah.
Single file for the most part here still, Reece.
Yeah, it seems that's going to be the order of running early on unless drivers make mistakes. I am seeing that Warwick is starting to be the cork in the bottle in this 6th place battle. It looks like the end of the train has started to be caught by Chad Lewis and the pack behind him. So this could be a long freight train making its way around this circuit. Keep an eye on Jeff Thomas, though, and also keep an eye at the front of the pack, because once again, Michael Stewart poking out the nose to try and unsettle Warwick. It's a straighter exit for Stewart out of the hairpin. Warwick would have gotten an off track from that and a slight instability off the curb. And into turn 1, Stewart's going to fancy a look here, but Warwick is late on the brakes. He'll try and maintain it, has to give a little bit of room to the inside. The move is not done yet for Michael Stewart. He can fling it up the inside here at turn 2, but he overcooks it, hits Warwick wide, and Paul Warwick won't be too happy with that. He's been passed by Dan Hall as well.
And job done there through turn 4 for Dan Hall, the beneficiary in that one, that's for sure. Watch here into turn 5. Whoa, different lines deep through Cito Ponds. Yeah, Warwick really trying to fling it in there, and yep, there you go. I better update this graphic, as indeed it now streaks back to Christian Smart in 14th place. So that's a good old 9 cars. I almost got it. Like in math. And in the back of the pack, Favell and McCune trading paint.
So here we go. Just enough room as 3 wide for the moment. That's Christian Smart trying to make his way through here at the back of this pack. Incredible stuff between those guys. Just enough room and not an inch more being given there. That's a freebie for Christian Smart. He'll be trying to catch up to Matt Vanderkraan, who currently sits in 5th. Remember, he and Vanderkraan fighting for 5th place in the championship, equal on points coming into this final round. Does McCune have anything here to try and put some distance between himself and Smart? He's certainly got a bit of clear air ahead. Chad Lewis is right on the back of Mark Poynton, Jeff Thomas and Paul Warwick. But you can instantly tell, looking at this pack as a whole, it seems like Mr. Warwick was indeed the cork in the bottle, because Michael Stewart and Dan Hall, they haven't exactly been caught again.
No, it's a good point to make there indeed. Starting to make a bit of margin. Actually, not quite really. Yeah, sorry, 8/10. It's not much, but it's enough to look like a decent bit of margin there in this this grand scheme of things. But yeah, relative to what's around them, 100%. Yeah, they're starting to make tracks and going up ahead. So we might just collapse that whole thing there and pull that one in that battle pack for now. Smart, back of the pack, looking to the inside. Nope, doesn't get up the inside of the brakes before I get into the dry stack.
McCune has a minor bit of damage to his front left from one of the earlier incidents we caught, so he might be on the back foot for pace. You never know. These cars, they do tend to take a beating, and they can easily complete races without the rear boot lid. Question is, will McCune be psyched out by that damage? It's hard to say at this early stage. We're only coming up to 7 laps into this race as the battle for 16th is heating up here. Paul Burns fighting with Dave Kirby. 17th place right now for David. He is up a single spot from where he started. Burns trying to make up some ground. He is down 8 spots from where he started.
Yeah, that's not a great start for Paul in this one. one of his best qualifying results so far this season, I'd have said, which unfortunately hasn't quite gone his way as a result. As in behind here, this is what it looks like from the cockpit of Dave Kirby. So we'll take a time to talk with him at some point during the race, as he's offered to speak with us, which is really cool to hear his thoughts as this race progresses. Try and find the opportune moment, as it were, to pick that one out here, rather than, say, in the middle of a battle.
Yeah, he certainly wouldn't want his focus taken away from this, trying to get past a car that's already on the back foot but may have gotten his pace back. In terms of one-lap pace, Paul Burns definitely has the edge over Dave Kirby, but will Kirby be better at managing his race pace, keeping the tyres up to spec? That is the question. Jerez being a very smooth circuit, you wouldn't expect tyre life to be a major factor, but it always is in these cars. They can make it about 10 laps in before they start seeing some pace drop off.
Yeah, and whilst the weather is favourable to the drivers here tonight, with static and cool morning conditions, so they won't be burning things up as much as I saw last night, with hot afternoon temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius on track. As I said, a much more pleasant 21. Still very easy to be able to work the cars tyres away here if you're not too careful. As yourself this battle here for 18th on back, Stephen Vargo leading Stewie Hall, Greg Sharp, Jason Fuels and Travis Hunt at this stage in the race, as we may come around, I should say, to start their 9th lap of the event. Just thinking about things, I was going to look up the front at some point. Yeah, it's continuing to grow up front. I don't know what it is that Scott Gamble has on a Thursday before he comes racing here in the V8 Vets, but just continues to just not put a foot wrong, lap in, lap out this season, and as a result, whilst other drivers show glimpses of comparative pace, just the consistency, I think, just appears to be the trick that Scott's got on everyone else. Look at that there, it's gone whilst we've been looking elsewhere down the pack, 3.8 seconds as you do.
Yeah, it's amazing pace from Scott Gamble here, and now he's basically treating this like a practice session, really. Look at the gaps that he's gotten over John Latham the last few laps there, in excess of a second on the previous lap. Latham, I think, has really burnt through his tyres now. I think that's probably Gamble's strength, is that he's not pushing the tyres too hard in the opening stint. Like you said, Dan, he hasn't put a foot wrong so far in this race, and his lines are looking conservative compared to what we've seen others doing. He's certainly not working the car as hard, and sometimes that brings you pace.
We'll leave this up here to see as it refreshes for the end here of lap number 9, what the comparison will be when John Latham gets across the line. So also note there, 39.3, 39.5, 39.4, and now 39.6. So yes, there's a bit of variation there, but we're only talking at most 0.3 of a second across 4 laps. And nevertheless, for John Latham, he's now in the 1 minute 40s and seems to be settling into a brap time in the 1 minute 40s. So that gap going to continue to grow at a healthy rate here for the 5:43.
Yeah, for the first stint at least, no one has an answer to Scott Gamble. Question is, will they be able to leapfrog him or at least get closer to him on strategy? Chris Miller made up a lot of time on John Latham on the last lap and is net 0.4 up after that last lap. But Ken Latta is the fastest car from 2nd to 4th. 1 minute 40.0 on the previous lap, and just trying to keep up with his teammate Chris Miller ahead of him. At this early stage of the race, it doesn't make any sense for team orders or anything like that, and I don't think team orders would be the case at Fishy Motorsports anyway. So we'll have to just see what the pink and yellow machines do coming into more towards the 50% mark of the race, depending on how they check out on the first pit cycle.
Fight for P6 currently on the road. Mark Stewart and Dan Hall. It's been pretty even at this stage as they continue to get away from Paul Warwick and co behind. But I have to say, Dan Hall looking a little more racy in that G True Force backed Revolution Racing Team Mustang. Whether that's going to hurt them here. And saying that, they've only got about, oh, pardon me, there's been some battling further on behind.
Whoa.
And it's going to be Jeff Thomas through now. into P8 at the head of the train. In fact, Paul Warwickson actually bailed out of that one completely there. Send the 050 down to the pit lane here early at the end of lap 10.
Yeah, you could see that the car wasn't really working for him here in the first stint, and the bit of contact that he suffered certainly wouldn't have helped things. There's actually a whole host of cars that's come into the lane now. Hunt, Sharp and Fewens have joined Paul Warwick in there. So these drivers committing to a relatively early pit stop to get the first one out of the way. And the question is, how long is their second stint going to be? I would imagine, you know, you can fill the car right up in this first pit stop. They are all starting on 50 litres of fuel, but other than that, setups are completely open. So
Fixed.
You never know. Sorry, fixed. My apologies. I keep getting that messed up. I'll get on top of it someday. But pit stops are completed for those guys. What I was trying to say was, we'll likely see them commit to another maybe 15 to 20 lap stint at least. I don't think any driver will be able to have the car under them to go for a full fuel tank run at this stage.
Yeah, I'd suspect, drivers will be looking to go, as I said, roughly even's been the most effective strategy of the season for the most part in this one here. So drivers undercutting now, maybe, as I said, look to go about 20 or so laps. It leaves you with about a 15 lap, or should leave you with a 17 odd lap stint to the end. So it does mean you don't quite have as much to kick things. Well, if you don't have much to start, that might mean you're going to have to really manage things here in the middle and the end phase of the race. As David Nash peels into the pit lane, but up front, Ken Ladder, released by Chris Miller, or at least has been caught and passed. He's the only other driver I'm seeing in the 139. It's not quite on Scott Gamble's pace by about nearly almost 0.2 of a second, but he's better. He might be able to catch John Latham here before the pit stops begin for these guys at the front of the field.
Yeah, I just took another look at the pass between Ladder and Miller, and it looks like half of it was a good run from Ladder, getting up alongside in the braking zone, and then as soon as he was alongside, Miller just let him have it. You know, it doesn't make much sense to be battling your teammate super hard in the early stages, especially when that teammate stands a chance of getting the title at the end of this round. Jamie McKnight also making his way into the pits. We're seeing pit stops run the gamut from all the way down to 20-something seconds for... Oh, no. Oh, that's bad for Ladder. Oh, dear. I was looking at the timing screen. I look back up at the prod feed and I'm like, what's going on there? Ladder just locked up at one of the most crucial corners on the track.
I mean, I wasn't ready for that at all either. I was just thinking, yeah, happy as you like, and I actually didn't quite go back far enough to catch it there, but yeah, just completely run off unexpectedly. Let's just see if we go on board here, if we can hear it with the 269 machine. Yeah, just overshot his mark a little bit there for, I believe that's turn 8. I believe it is. It's just, yeah, that car did not want to get into the corner.
No, it didn't. Such a shame. You know, these long flowing turns at this circuit, they don't often suit these cars. You've got to be braking in a straight line in these things, otherwise they'll lock up and go straight on. But at the same time, you need to be trail braking into these corners. You need to be carrying speed into them so you can get the rotation you need for the run out. Unfortunately, Latta has made a big boo-boo there, and it's going to take a lot to recover from that. He's fallen back into 4th spot. Fortunately, that top 4 gained enough on everyone behind that Latta doesn't have to worry about getting harassed by anyone.
That's true, although part of that will also be the fact that we've got a host of drivers who've come into the pit lane. Oh, how about that there for a drag race out of the pits? Michael Stewart actually getting the jump on Matt Vanderkraan, although that is by virtue of also going about 3 seconds shorter in the pit box. So that'll be time that Stewart owes back to the 180 machine, because Vanderkraan was pretty comfortably running there in about 5th place it would have been, I think.
Yeah.
That pit stop, whereas Stewart was P6.
Yeah, indeed. So, yeah, Vanderkraan with a bit of a loss there in the pit cycle, but he'll be able to go longer on the second stint. go back briefly to the talk I was going to have about pit stop times. The longest stop that we've seen so far is from David Nash, 31.7 seconds in the lane, as looks like our top drivers have responded. Gamble, Latham, Miller, Hall, Poynton, Lewis, Flavel, Kirby all in, but Latta is going to stay out, and I think he has to. He wants to try and grab maybe something resembling an overcut here after his unfortunate incident, but I don't know if he'll be able to pull it off.
Yeah, this will be a bit of work to make it work. He really is going to need a safety car to recompress the field here to be in a position to have a crack at it. Things here, in fact, my little battle pack have all peeled into the pit lane. So it just leaves us with Ken Latta here in the lead of the race, Jeff Thomas in second. In fact, one of my just switch over that there and show when everyone came into the pits. You'll see quite clearly there. Top two, Stephen Varga here, third place, and Darren Busu, will make size 186, your only drivers yet to pit. Rick Vigor, it does say one next to his name in terms of when he pitted, but that unfortunately is a bit of an error. Didn't make the start and was in the pit lane. She might even dropped out when he got going. And speaking of dropping out, according to my race info, we've had an issue for Travis Hunt out there whilst we've all been out and about, which means he is currently sitting 33rd. And yeah, unfortunately for Travis, sits one lap off the race lead.
Yeah, looks like a technical issue for him, potentially losing a lap, and we'll restart the race from pit lane, but yeah, that's got a sting. You know, Hunt was right behind Paul Warwick at the time on his 12th lap, and he looks like he just dropped off the circuit. Evidently internet issues from what we can see. In any case, Michael Stewart in the top 10 at the moment, as it looks like Latta has come into the lane. Jeff Thomas and Stephen Varga also in there too. Looks like Darren Goosey's going to file in as well. And will Rick Vigor join them here to cleanse the field after this first pit cycle? And where is Latta going to come out relative to everyone else? Gamble resumes the race lead. Latta still just jumping off the jacks now, and that's going to be falling behind Miller, falling behind Hall, falling behind Michael Stewart and Mark Poynton as well. Latta comes out in 7th spot, make that 8th, because there's Matt Vanderkraan. Now it's a battle for 7th place. Latta's going to have to make full use of this new set of tyres to try and work his way past.
And clear on Vanderkraan there through the exit of turn 2, and maybe a bit of turn 3 there to make it possible, but we'll sort that one out without too much of a fuss. And look at that, immediately going to really push on this outlap is Ken Latta, because yeah, he's now buried in amongst guys that were around P6 or so. So this is a little further back than he was, and we'll wait to see what he can do.
Yeah, so Latta staying out that extra lap. He is going to have a bit more pace on those in front of him early on. Granted, these guys have only been out for about 1.5 to 2.5 laps in the case of Michael Stewart, but sometimes that's all the margin you need for a bit of extra tyre performance, being able to work your way past. But as we've seen, it's difficult to pull off moves around this place.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's one of those tracks where the cars go pretty well here, and you've got turn 1, turn 2, Dry's the hairpin, Dry Sack, turn 6, Lorenzo the hairpin here, turn 13, as well as up through Angiolieto, turns 9 and 10, also options. But at the same time, managing the car quite a bit around this circuit seems to be the case that overtaking options, you really have to rely on a mistake from the car ahead to not put yourself in a position where you're overworking your own car, really, as far as I can tell, even in these more favourable conditions we're seeing here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, keep our eyes trained on the battle for 5th here. This is the battle for 9th. Smart, Thomas, and McCune. Smart with the quickest pit stop out of these guys, but only by 0.2 or so over Jeff Thomas and Scott McCune. Where Smart really gained was the run through pit lane. 46.6 seconds entry to exit. Compare that to 47.2, 47.5 for Thomas and McCune. So what we can get from that is that Smart was a lot better at getting in and out of his box and maybe getting on and off the limiter at exactly the right time as well. Will he be able to hold on to his position at the front of this pack, though? Look at how much Jeff Thomas is harassing them. McCune is in the background here. Remember, of course, both Smart and McCune pitted on the same lap. Jeff Thomas has slightly fresher tyres.
Let's see if we can use them, although whether that's going to be a case of we're now past the point where it's going to make a huge difference until mistakes are made. To be seen around here at this stage as we come up into this end part of the circuit. Skip past the Grand Prix chicane that was installed back in 1994, I think it was, as we saw there a little error from the Smart, and then similar for Thomas there on the penultimate turn as he tried to really carry the momentum. It does well to hang on to it, doesn't seem to hurt him too much in the immediate future here, and through Lorenzo they go, although tightens up a bit, but at the same amount should be safe here at turn 1. Jeff wanted to threaten for half a second. He's certainly going to play the mind games and may have just tricked a little walk out of Chris Smart there, so that's working reasonably well here at this stage and not under pressure from McCune behind either.
Yeah, certainly a lot of pressure on Smart, though. Yeah, I did see that Thomas just moved a little bit in the braking zone there, and that probably psyched out Smart a little, caused him to lock up the fronts coming into the first corner, but he's managed to hold on to it crucially. Will he get the best run here out of the sweeper down to dry sack? Smart trying to threaten a defense here, but sticking his nose up the inside. Smart will fire it towards the inside of the corner to try and keep Thomas behind, but on the exit, who has the best traction? Thomas, you'd think would. A little bit of contact between them, though. He tried to turn in for the apex, but Smart was still there.
Oh man, that was tight there. As we work our way up into Angel Nieto once again. Close, but not quite.
Oh, and looks like Thomas had to give up just a little bit there through the second of the right-handers. And this has almost brought McCune right back into it. Once again, you go side by side in a fight, you try and make your moves, you end up costing yourself time. And that allows the driver who's just been sitting in the background decide, okay, now I can have a run at things.
Biding his time here for now, and it's paying off in terms of probably looking after his car at this stage of the race. So
right then.
Lane further back, and on the whole, Rob Christo, second stop already after his 14 laps. He's back in the Frog League 808. So this is inside, well inside the window to make it home. If he's not going to do a, he's going to do a two-stop. It's going to be a pretty painful two-stop from there, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it would be. He's going to be on incredibly worn tyres by the end, and he'll have to give up a lot of pace if he wants to make them last. Regardless, it'll be a difficult run for Rob Crisdale in any case. Ken Latta, meanwhile, is back up to 5th place, just making the move on Michael Stewart and Mark Poynton there. He's been steadily gaining time, but he's got about 2.5 seconds or so to Dan Hall to make up, and maybe the second pit stop will have that happen for him. Greg Sharp with a bit of damage to his right-hand side in the WKMP SimSports 747. We might see how it happened here. Coming on the run down to the hairpin, he's on the brakes, and the car behind decides to go for it. Maybe missed his braking point. Sharp slowing down to let him go and get sideswiped on the way through.
Yeah, that angle didn't really help. I'm trying to get a better angle here if we can. Okay, it's far out, but we'll be able to get a better view. He's offline and he's very slow. So Luke Rundell goes through, and it's Paul Burns who just was going for the corner, thinking that gap was going to stay open there the way it was. So that was an odd one there, that's for sure.
Yeah, very odd indeed. Greg Sharp now has a slightly stricken car, but still not damaged enough to cause a mechanical black flag, but he is losing pace. He had to let Dean Flavel by towards the end of the lap, and now Paul Warwick fancies a chance. Warwick, of course, one of many drivers on a big recovery here, and that's Dean's heart rate right now. Having just made the move on his teammate, it's looking pretty steady for the middle of the V8 Veterans race.
Yeah, for now, looking pretty neat. We've seen that heart rate up over 100 in weeks past, so we'll see if he can keep it steady here. As in behind, there we go, through the letterbox of the rear wing we look, and Warwick going to get that one through without too much hullabaloo there on 747 to Greg Sharp.
Yeah, so that's going to conclude that fight for the time being. We'll wait and see how much pace Warwick has over Flavel here. On the last lap, Warwick made up 2 seconds, but of course that was due to Flavel having to make his way past Greg Sharp. Would have lost a lot of time from there. Had to have a couple of goes at the brakes coming into that corner, so you never know. Dean might be having some trouble here in the WKMP Mustang, but he'll certainly do his best to hold on to that final position in the top 14. So, this battle is one of only a few left on track at the moment, but we'll continue to keep an eye on things. The battle for 5th is continuing to heat up. Latta hasn't quite gotten away from Michael Stewart yet, but it looks like they have made up some time on Dan Hall. The gap looking to be about 2.2 now from Latta to Hall. And of course, Dan is all by himself. He's only got his own race to manage right now, as Chris Miller has been streaking off into the distance in 3rd. So let's see what Latta can do to try and stake his claim for a podium.
Up to the last 3 laps, comparing Dan Hall and Ken Latta's pace, and really it seems to be that all the time Ken's made inroads is when Dan had a bit of a rough lap there, putting 1 minute 40.1 on the board. Every other time that Dan's been in, well, the last 3 laps, 1:39.6 and 1:39.8, racketing that time of Dan's. He's been able to be on the up against Ken Latta there, so keep that in mind to see if that changes much. I get the feeling it might not here at this stage.
So we're almost at the halfway point of this final round of the RaceKraft V8 Veterans Championship, and as things stand, Latta has got a lot of work ahead of him if he wants to try and get close to Scott Gamble. Once again, there is no stopping the championship leader. He's extended that gap out now to 7.4 seconds over John Latham. So that pit cycle, I mean, Gamble did have a slower pit stop, as it looks like Greg Sharp has decided to make his way into the pits now for his 2nd stop. Evidently, the damage a bit too much to continue on for any longer than that, so it's only going to be a 10-lap middle stint for Greg Sharp, and he'll be committed all the way to the end.
Bring up live championship points as things stand here tonight in the season, although unfortunately there is one bonus point system that's not able to be in effect, which is the bonus for getting 0 incident points in this race. So we'll check. We haven't had any reports from race control about points penalties being applied yet tonight either, so I think we're in the clear there for now. So these should be good as they currently run. Critically, you can see there Chris Miller actually jumps to 3rd, and it's Dan Hall who leapfrogs up 3 spots back into P4. And naturally, with Matt Vanderkraan sitting ahead of Christian Smart, he gets ahead there, although right now it is only a very small difference of just 4 points between 2 of them. And then critically, if we jump down to P15 and look at the battle for the bubble, Mark Poynton, this result tonight is critical for getting him to stay in split 1. So keep your eyes out here on the Frog League Juice Machine. P7 on the road right now is currently threatening to transit. Actually, it's a tie. It'll be a tie for 20th as they stand.
Yeah, he and Paul Warwick, they've got a lot to play for here, and you know, I think Warwick with the issues he's faced, it would be a very sweet victory if he'd be able to get more points and just elevate himself above Mark Point and buy that single point there. That is amazing to see. And of course, Troy Stonestreet not here for the final round. He was on the bubble coming into the last round, and unfortunately he will drop out of that. So it's a completely different set of drivers that we're focusing on in the battle for the bubble.
Indeed, if they extend the tower a little bit, we'll see here Troy Stonestreet, he will fall to P28 on points here, because this final race in the season they cannot drop. They had 2 drops for this 10-round championship, picked from, well, automatically chosen from the lowest scoring results of any of rounds 1 through 9, of course, as you typically would see in that kind of a situation. And so this is, yeah, the all-important one. So critically, David Nash looks to be consolidating in the top 20. And yeah, I have to go, if they do tie on points, we'll have to probably try and figure out a count back for Mark Point and Paul Warwick to determine which would get it on points. Travis Hunt, unfortunately, being a lap down now, is currently the worst possible place he could be, as he's now sitting just under 20 points outside the top 20. So that's going to require a safety car getting a lap back and then a Herculean drive forward. The JWM number 32 to be invited back automatically. From there, outside, it is a bit of a healthy margin back. So he's relatively safe. The pressure behind, it's all about really hoping for a chance to be able to press his way forward.
Yep, speaking of pressing your way forward, the gap at the front has gone even further. John Latham now trailing Scott Gamble by 8.3 seconds. It's just metronomic consistency here from Scott Gamble, showing why he was leading the championship coming into this round, has taken by far the most wins this season. It's rare, a V8 Veterans race, that we don't see Scott Gamble up the front, and you know, those gaps, just amazing that that Gamble's able to maintain this kind of pace.
Yeah, I mean, if you want the number, 9 starts, not including tonight, 7 wins, and technically it was 8 of them at the line. Had the race win at Le Mans taken away on a post-race points penalty for round 2 of the season. Otherwise, it was also round 7 where Ken Latta got one on him a couple of weeks ago. Every other race this season, Scott Gamble has seen the checkered flag first and been confirmed your race winner. So this looks to be a case of continuing to dominate, as at the end of this one here will be the end of the halfway mark of this race. 23 down, 23 to go.
And Scott Gamble will set a 1 minute 39.6 on that final lap of the first half of this race. It seems like he's the only driver to break into the 39s at this point, seeing low 1 minute 40s from Latham, Miller and Hall. Ken Latta was in the 39s last lap, but sets a 1 minute 40.2 that time around, so he still hasn't gotten away from Michael Stewart in the battle for 5th.
Interesting there. Also looking here at the lap time, say, between Dan Hall and Ken Latta, they're pretty even. At least in the last lap they were. Let's just confirm that one there. Relatively even, although we can see Ken Latta making his way up towards the rear bumper of the ERT number 462 in due course. So maybe that'll close down, but at the rate is going of a 10th and change a lap. That'll still take a good, well, nearly 20 laps. And there's not many more laps than 20 left in this race. So Ken's going to have to find something, or Dan's going to have to lose something to really see things change before the end of the race. For that one, of course, there is, though, the second pit stop for all these drivers that will be coming up, I should know.
Yeah, the only drivers on 2 pit stops so far are Greg Sharp and Rob Crisdale, and they are on very alternate strategies, particularly in the case of Crisdale. Rob took his last pit stop 6 laps ago and will likely be on to the end. Everyone else just trying to extend this middle stint out as much as they can for a final run to the finish on nice, fresh tyres. Aside from those fights we're talking about between Latta and Stewart here, and potentially Dan Hall going to be a part of it too. Jeff Thomas and Christian Smart also fighting. Luke Grundle is the driver with the most positions gained in the field. That SLS Racing Commodore is looking mighty quick, and crucially, Grundle has managed to stay out of trouble.
That he has, and well, that's certainly going to put him in contention for Chowie Lungsberger's driver of the day, and that would be a pretty neat way to go about it. It was the debuted in V8 Veterans and top split at round 1 at Laguna Seca, and performance at that track was in the top 5. Between myself and Grant Tucker, we warranted that was worthy of a driver of the day performance to maybe cap off the season with another driver of the day here tonight. Might be a neat way of going about it, but I mean, yeah, whether it goes to someone like Luke, whether maybe as much as it seems like it's maybe not quite in the spirit of the award, it goes to Scott Gamble perhaps for another race where he just did exactly what he needed to do, but actually he did more than he needed to do. He claimed the championship in style, perhaps you could say, out front. So questions there to worry about, but you can see here for Grundle, he's got Paul Burns for company as they fight over 12, and if they start properly fighting, Dean Clavell is just there in the background and can close up on the back of the 110.
Yeah, Dean, of course, lost some time making his way past his teammate before the pit stop. Burns was the one with the quickest stop out of all of these guys, 3 seconds faster than Luke Grundle. So what that says to us is that he has a lighter car at the moment. Remember, the starting fuel is capped at 50 litres, so if someone has a quicker pit stop in the first cycle, you know that they've put less fuel in the car. That does mean he's going to have to pit earlier for the second stop, but considering the pace he's got right now, that might not matter all that much. He's rounded up to the back of Grundle very nicely for this last position in the top 12.
That he is. Keep an eye on that as this one continues on. Try and also pick up some other battles a little further down the pack. Paul Warwick here. He's got a couple of cars looking to line up in behind him. Go back to about Dave Kirby, which makes 5, 15th through 19th. See how's Jason Fewens looking in this one. He often looks like a man of absolute dedication and focus. I can tell you right now, not much has changed on that front there for the driver of the Bantam Alliance 067.
Yeah, Jason's just eyes forward right now, chasing down Warwick, who had one of the longest pit stops here, and it looks like he's actually gotten past there. Oh, okay, there he is. So apparently Paul Warwick just running a bit wide in the hairpin there. That's the second time we've been caught by surprise at something happening, Dan. It seems like we've, we get ourselves into a rhythm here.
Oh, no.
And, things are going very wrong for Warwick now. Just seems like he's having trouble keeping the fronts under him. Might have been overheating them a little.
And I mean, it's more of a case, yeah, just one little mistake at the hairpin then leads to 2 or 3 moments there into danger in the air, and all of a sudden now the pace is gone at the front end of the car through the final sector. So immediately going to bail and get into the pit lane to put a fresh set of tyres on here, but barely over the halfway mark. We've got 20 laps to go here when he comes out of the pit, so it's still going to be a reasonably long final stint. In fact, he only did 15 laps there on this stint, so that's going to be a bit of tyre wear as Mark Poynton's hit the pit lane in all of this.
I just want to point out as well with regards to the battle between Lewis and Warwick. We saw Warwick have that moment behind Jason Fewens. That was actually Lewis making contact with him. So evidently something getting a little spicy out there on track right now with Poynton exiting the pit lane. And he will come out ahead of all of them. 30.6 seconds stop for him. 34.6 seconds on Blanchard's last stop, but he hasn't managed to come in for the second time, so keep an eye on Grundle and Lewis. Chad Lewis with a 20.3 second stop, so he managed to get most of his pit service out of the way in that first cycle.
Just confirming, it looks like at this stage in the race, Mark Poynton here back in 22nd, is the leader of those who have pit twice. And had a reasonably long second stop to do it, 30 seconds in the lane. So that's going to be a good 80-odd litres of fuel put in the car, roughly speaking. I don't have the exact numbers on me, unfortunately. So we'll see how that goes coming into these last couple of turns on the circuit here. Gets back up to speed.
Indeed. Jason Fewens, meanwhile, has thrown up the white flag and made his way into the pits. Paul Burns as well. Only 2 cars that I'm seeing to pit on this lap so far. Keep an eye on Grundle and Lewis, though. They are fresh out of the pits down in 24th and 25th for the time being. This is certainly going to be a battle for the ages if Grundle is able to hold on to the positions he's got, but Lewis is vaulting it very deep into the hairpin there. That's one of the later braking points I've seen. Miracle he pulled it up. Fortunately, he has the tyres under him to get away with it, but he'll probably have burnt through quite a bit of the usable life of those tyres. Meanwhile, Paul Burns comes out just behind them as Lewis locks up into turn 1 and goes into the runoff area. Manages to keep it out of the gravel, but he has to give up the place to Burns.
Mistake there for Chad, but still going in the right direction, so he'll carry on for now, at least it seems. So that hasn't hurt him too much. Well, definitely going to hurt for a bit. Hopefully he'll carry on. There's then a little further up the road, drivers yet to do their second stop. This battle actually inside the top 15, so I'll move over to the tower. David Nash, David Kirby, and Damien Cairns here, all running line astern for the time being. Up the orders. We've got Dan Hall in the pit lane along with Christian Smart just ahead, as Nash will peel to the pit lane as well in the orders.
Okay, so Nash trying to get an undercut here in the battle with Dave Kirby and Damien Cairns. Kirby has certainly been driving well in this race, hasn't he? He's just been nice and consistent, keeping himself in the fight and driving a clean race so far, which is more than can be said for quite a few drivers out there. I think the only other driver who's had actually had a spotless race, you could say, is Scott Gamble, who's in the lead, and that lead is just stretched out ridiculously now, over 13 seconds.
Man, that is quite something there, that's for sure. Looks like at the back of Dave Kirby's car, with Damien Cairns behind. And into the dry sack hairpin we go. That's like that little wiggle from the front of Cairns' car. And it almost looked like for Kirby's car here, didn't really want to get into the hairpin. So coming towards, 15 laps, 16 at the end of this one for the tyres on this one here. So Kirby's almost split this race perfectly in 3. It's John Latham, I think. Is he going for the pits, or is he at the moment?
No, it was Chris Miller going for the pits. Briefly showed up as Miller getting past Latham there, but Miller is going to try and make a run at this in the final stint of the race. Try and grab second spot, and he's going to be joined in the pits by his teammate Latta, along with Stewart, Thomas and McCune. Van der Kraan as well making his way into the lane, but his pit stall is right at the end of pit lane. So there's a little bit of position finagling going on there. Kirby and Cairns will continue on, same for Latham and Flavel. But aside from that, the only other drivers yet to take their second stop are Stephen Varga and Robert Griffiths, who move up into the top 10 now. Pit stop completed for Miller, 23.5 seconds. Van der Kraan, much quicker stop there. Van der Kraan is going aggressive to the end of the race here.
Yeah, don't forget, gee, that's quite something there. Let's say, it's not Ken Latta behind that we want to note there. As you said, Van der Kraan's only 2 spots back, but he did take on a little bit more fuel at his first stop, Van der Kraan, so he is getting a bit of the initial time loss back early. Here's Scott McCune in pit lane, black flag to his name.
Oh, yeah.
I think
he's been in there for over a minute now.
And saying that, actually haven't had many of them tonight, but I think we might have just had our first driver to make an error on pit entry, and what I might do is try and queue up the replay. See if we can catch if it was speeding on the entry, or if it was running wide. We had one of those last night as well. Let's see here. Pick it up.
All right, well, Scott obviously having to make an aggressive dive in, and he manages to line it up nicely, but I don't know what's going on there. It seemed like he'd slowed down in time, but maybe he was over by about 5Ks. Can't be sure.
Speed is A-OK, so it's got to be something early in the entry. Might go back one last time to pick it up. Go back way back here into the final sector. Is it? Now, it might be policing limits here on the inside superstrict as he clipped too much there, right there, maybe.
He might have.
Which is incredibly hard because that doesn't look like much.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's about the only thing I can sort of... Oh, Damien Cairns black flag as well.
Oh, wow, there's a lot going on here as the final few drivers take their second pit stops. Don't know what's going on for Damien Cairns. Maybe he did indeed speed into pit lane. Can't be sure. It's so difficult to tell because we don't have access to the very specific information of incident points and track limits and stuff like that for individual drivers. But regardless, it's going to be a big hit for Damien Cairns as Darren Goosey making his way out of pit lane there at the bottom of the screen. I'd expect Cairns to be coming off the jacks and getting ready to go any moment now. Tends to be held for about 40 seconds or so for an unsafe pit entry. But speaking of safety, not too safe between Jeff Thomas and Mark Poynton. Very little space between those cars when we cut to them. But that is Thomas making his way up into the top 10, which is going to be effective 8th once Dave Kirby and Ricky Hyde make their way into the pits.
Yeah, these two here having a good scrap at it. Well, they're going to have to be mindful here as they're sitting in the mid-pack of this field, and still got ourselves, what's that there, 15, it'll be 15 to go at the line when they get here, so can't afford to be driving each other too hard at this stage of the race if they want to have some tyre life left underneath them to make it to the finish.
Yeah, Dave Kirby's certainly stretching it, isn't he? And that tells me that he's going to be hyper-aggressive in the final stages of the race. He's the only car out there now that hasn't made a stop, second stop rather. Ricky Hyde just completing his pit service here, and looks like a solid 20.6 seconds in the lane right now. Kirby, looking at his car, you can certainly tell he's having to tiptoe around there. The tyres are certainly past their best.
Yeah, and we'll actually, before we maybe wait till we come into the pit lane, but also take an opportunity to speak with him here tonight on how things have been going for him. Because yeah, we'll see, maybe chats to see where he's hoping to filter back out perhaps, and all of that stuff. Yeah, get on top of things. Final run home here tonight as based on where everyone else has come out. He'd probably come out, well, down in the mid-teens once again. But he'll have fresher tyres than most people around him here, and so he will hit the pit lane. Let's see, make sure he hits the marks. That looks all good to me.
Yep, gets on the pit lane a little early, but it's better to do that than speed into the pit lane. So we're expecting a nice short stop here. Won't have much fuel to put into the car relative to everyone else. He'll fall outside the top 5. Question is, where will he come out? Quickest pit stops have been around 20 seconds from what we've seen. I'm expecting around the same here for Dave Kirby, and it is 19.2 seconds. So Kirby is, well, he's going to take a chance to have a bit of a puff in the pit lane. Good opportunity for that. Get yourself in the zone and ready to emerge back out on the racetrack in what looks like clear air. So he'll have a chance to attack.
Yeah, nice healthy gap back to Jason Fewens. He's only about 3 seconds off Chad Lewis and Paul Burns. Half a second, so that's looking pretty good there. So that is our, actually not quite our second stop cycle complete. Oh no, this according to this here, David Fisher's looking to go long. He has had a drive-through penalty of some kind in recent history.
Yes, he has.
Slowing things for a loop. So pitted on, looks like he pitted on lap 12. So pitted on lap 13, apologies. Maeve, and I think, yeah, drive-through on lap 28 there.
And that wasn't assigned by race control, so maybe it was incident limit drive-through potentially.
Maybe indeed. Well, might do this. Now seems like a good time for Dave Kirby. He's in a pretty chill spot. Having agreed to speak with us last week, he was happy to chat with us once again. So bring him up into the commentary booth now. Dave, I'm going to put you back live once again. Good to have you back with us once again. How's it going out there in the 307?
It's tough. There's no rest. Safety car would be nice. But no, it's going well. Car feels good. I've kept it in between the lines all race, which is looking for those bonus points. But see if I can catch these guys in front. That would be the main thing now. Tyres are a little bit fresher.
Yeah, looking at numbers, yeah, you've got some tyre life advantage. I'm sorry to cut you off there, Reese. So, I mean, yeah, obviously going long there, that middle stint, hopefully hasn't hurt you too much. Now you have to chase the guys down ahead of you here, but it looks like you're making some good inroads already.
Yeah, I think probably I went maybe a little bit too long. But that's all right. Yeah, nothing really to lose, nothing to gain tonight. Yeah, the main objective really is just to finish, bank the points. Obviously being a no-drop round as well, so... but yeah, just keep it clean and make it to the end without any trouble. But if I can pick off a couple of these guys, if their tyres fall off a cliff, it'll definitely help me a little bit.
Yeah, indeed, Dave. Well, yeah, just the run to the end now. You pitted late. You've got a lot under you. You've got fresh tyres. And considering the way you're catching the guys ahead of you, I might see you potentially finishing 14th, if not better, by the end. So, obviously, the idea is to not work the front so hard. This seems to be the track where preserving the front tyres is paramount.
Yeah, 100%. Basically been looking after the tyres the entire race, so obviously...
Oh dear.
No.
Problem at the hairpin there. I think we'll let you go now, Dave. You've got a little bit of... oh, well, it looks like you're actually going to get the position on Burns here.
I'm good.
Good heads-up driving there. Let's just hope that nothing like that happens towards the end.
No, that was a little bit fun. I didn't know if he was going to hold it still or not and hold his brakes. So, but got around, no contact. Had a bit of a slowdown there when I went around him, but we've kept the 0x intact, which is good.
Very nice. Well, hopefully it remains that way to the end, Dave. Thanks very much for joining us, and best of luck to the end.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks, guys, and yeah, we'll talk to you again. See ya.
Dave Kirby there with a really good run going so far, and he's got all the world ahead of him here as there's an incident behind him. Paul Burns once again running into trouble, this time contact with Jason Fewens through the hairpin.
Okay, I've got a couple of things to go look at. Might even try and surprise pick up exactly what happened there. So between Chad Lewis and Paul Burns at the end of lap 34 there, first of all. Yes, it was. So I'm going to go here. Oh no, pardon me. So this is actually a little earlier in the... Oh no, I'll let this one play out. So queued that one up a little bit too long in the tooth. So this is going to be telling here that maybe this was completely solo because he jumped on the radio to pull. Oh no, understeer through turn 11 there. That's going to make him vulnerable to Chad Lewis by the time we get down to Lorenzo. Here comes the lunge.
And around he goes. I'm amazed that, wow, Kirby was very close there, wasn't he, to getting an off track there, but like you said, he has preserved his 0x so far, and this is Burns getting tagged by Jason Fewens coming into the hairpin. Fewens has redressed the position, so likely escape any harsh penalty from race control, but you never know. The stewards here might have something else to say about that incident. So Fewens now up behind Burns and Stewie Hall as Kirby has absolutely run away from the scene of this battle.
Yeah, gonna have to put some work in now because he was within about 1.5 seconds. Chad Lewis can see that on the interval of the tower now. He's actually just lost a bunch of time. We're back to that 5 seconds or so. Actually losing even more time as we speak. Just a couple of tenths here and there. So I think just a bit of a rough couple of corners there for Dave. I want to go back up towards the front of the field because this has been happening since the pit stops 6-7 laps ago for these drivers here. And for John Latham, it's now his turn to have the pace relative to the car in front. Over the back of Chris Miller.
And let's see what he can do here. The battle for second place. Miller was quicker in the pit cycle. He'll likely have slightly worse tyres though. Latham pitted 6 laps ago, Miller pitted 7 laps ago. So there's a lot to play for here. Can Latham make use of those fresh tyres? Considering the way his pace dropped off in the first stint though, he doesn't seem to be as good on his tyres as the likes of Miller and Gamble are, and he's had to back out there coming out of the hairpin. Maybe he'll have another run towards the end, but we are inside 10 laps to go here in the final round of V8 Veterans Season 19. And this could be your podium. We'll have to wait and see. Latham currently has a couple of seconds in hand over Kenneth Latter. So just needs to maintain this pace at least, and he'll have secured third in the final round.
Yeah, looking at things here. Ken slightly faster. Just hearing over the radio. Our first substantive penalty of the race goes away at 727, which is Chad Lewis. Contact on lap 34 with Paul Burns down there at Lorenzo.
Okay, well, Chad Lewis will take that points penalty. That will affect his standing in the championship potentially. But of course, we'll have to wait until everything's worked out post-race for that. But now we settle into the final few laps of this race and see whether or not Latham can get past Miller for second, whether or not Dean Flavell can make his way past David Nash for 12th. There is still the battle going on between Burns, Fewens and Ricky Hyde as well. And speaking of, Ricky Hyde's just made his way past Jason Fewens for 18th spot. Looks like Fewens was just taken in the first couple of corners there. So Ricky Hyde on a pretty nice charge through the field, up 11 spots. Second most positions gained, actually third most positions gained.
So Luke Rundell's going to hold down the most spots gained. He's actually now threatening the top 10 in this one here. Plus, I think look at that Hyde already worried about the attack that might come from Jason Fewens. So chops inside on the run towards dry sack hairpin. On the spot now, gave up a little bit of time there on entry, of course. We'll see if that costs him in the next couple of laps if he keeps that up.
Yeah, how much pace will Ricky Hyde have left to give? Well, he pitted 4 laps after Fewens, so he's still got a fair amount of pace in those tyres, and we'll try and take advantage of that before the inevitable grip drop off about 10 to 15 laps into the stint. Jason Fewens is basically already there, and he's had to negotiate a couple of incidents on the way with a lock-up or two here and there, so it's going to be a bit more difficult for Fewens to extract the pace. We'll have to see though. Meanwhile, this fight between Stephen Varga and Robert Griffiths for the last spot in the top 20 as McKnight is slow. That's a problem there for the Fishy Motorsports 027 stopping on the circuit. This might bring out the safety car if he can't get it cleared. That's in a very dangerous spot on the circuit.
Off line. And I think just trying to see if he can get moving because, yeah, given. And let's see, so yeah, the engine's still fired on the 027. That must be the flashing yellow light.
Oh, he's moving again.
Yeah.
Only slowly, but he is moving. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him there. Might have been a hardware failure because I'm seeing that he had a big slide in the corner beforehand. You can see he's, I think, potentially working the wheel here, trying to get the car going again. But that's a very bizarre incident for Jamie McKnight. We see him continue on as he likes to do, and then ultimately just goes for a big slide, and then after that point just slows down. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, I was trying to see if we had there the infamous engine go pop. And he's still on track, and they've called a safety car for it.
Oh, so here we go.
So you can't quite see why he's had to come to a stop there, but it has triggered a safety car in the final laps of the race. Your leader, Scott Gamble, he's nowhere near the pit lane. No doubt he would come to the pits. He's almost close enough that he wouldn't lose too much, but surely wouldn't risk at this stage. In the rest of the field, you can see here the margins on the tower, they're also compressed. It's really Gamble, the only one in the position who might be able to benefit, and even then obviously he's not really looked like he's been under threat as a result. But we'll track him here as he comes to the final sector, see if he tries to roll the dice on this one. Although it looks like he's not exactly hustling here, so no, I doubt he comes to the pit lane here.
Yeah, I think it's just not worth it. I mean, I know he knows that he has some incredible pace, even on slightly older tyres, but what does it mean for everyone behind him? I don't think Ken Ladder's going to make his way into the pits. I mean, he is hustling is Latter, and same for Miller and Latham. Whether or not they come into the lane for a fresh tyre stint to the end remains to be seen, but they will avoid the pit lane thus far. This is a nice free kick to Ken Ladder. He was struggling to make up the pace on Miller and Latham, so this will compress the field. This will give him exactly what he needs, and for that matter, it'll help out Dave Kirby a lot as well. Remember, he was saying that he was hoping for a safety car? Well, he's gotten one.
That he has, and lo and behold, absolutely no one yet in front of the field has peeled into the pits. It's top 13, they've all gone by pit entry, and I expect that that track will keep continuing here. Yep. There you go, another 3 cars by. Paul Burns will make it 17 and Fewens behind 18. Yeah, really, the only driver who's got a gap is Damon Fisher. And not Rob Chrisdale is going to, yep, 22. No surprises there though, 22 laps on his current to the tyres thanks to being off sequence. And he will come towards the back of the field, lose a couple of spots here. In the process though, he will have tyres to try and push forward to improve at the end of this race.
Yeah, Chrisdale with that mechanical black flag in the first couple of laps. This will be a nice way to finish for him, depending on where he comes out. He'll probably come out, just inside the top 30, and for that matter, we've only got 30 cars left running in this race. Chris Blanchard has also decided to jump into the lane. No surprise to see that drivers further down in the field are deciding to roll the dice and get some fresh tyres on. Could be the opportunity. Blanchard needs to get some more places, but Chrisdale comes out in 27th position, and he's going to have Damien Cairns on 10-lap old tyres ahead, Rick Vigor on 14-lap old tyres, then McCune and Goosey 11 and 10 laps in each, and then Greg Sharp, who pitted 20 laps ago. So I'm looking for Greg Sharp to be a cork in the bottle of this safety car period for those last few positions in the race.
20 laps ago, that is going to be something nasty there. I'll put his last pit stop lap there, and you can see it is right on that 20, so replacing his positions gained or lost. in this race on the lower third. And yeah, it's going to hurt, surely, at this stage, because you compared to the cars behind. Darren Goosey, full 10-lap difference on tyres. Surely the 747 tumbles backwards here. Rick Vigor there is, I can confirm, not in first place. Unfortunately, didn't take the race start and is throwing the timing and scoring through. Look at that, Damien Cairns also 10 laps younger tyres than Sharp, and then Crisdale 10 laps younger than everyone in front of him again.
Yeah, so look for Rob Crisdale to be a big mover in these final few laps of the race. Chris Blanchard as well might well be a factor in all of this. But Crisdale, 11 spots down from where he started. He should be solidly in the midfield were it not for his incident at the start. So look for him to have some great advantage over those ahead of him. Safety car lights are out, and it looks like we are going to be going green at the end of this lap. So Scott Gamble with obviously the best prepared car here tonight, driving it incredibly well. I don't expect there'll be too much of an issue for him keeping the lead, but look for it to all go off behind. Latham wants to get past Miller. Latter wants to get closer to Gamble to try and rummage around a little in this championship and see if he can grab it.
Yeah, he'll certainly want that. And in fact, let's bring up 5 points in the championship, although barring that, any bonuses for the incident point threshold. As there you go, gap at this stage to end the season off. The reason you do this year, you see it's a 63-point difference at the current stage. Chris Miller up to P3, gaining a spot. Dan Hall up 2 spots. Sorry, Matt Ranacron up a spot to P4. Has extended his gap over Christian Smart. So that's going to be helpful. And Dan Hall, they're still sitting in the top 5 on points at this stage. And well, we're going to have just 4 laps to sort this one out here. So it's going to be interesting to watch. And of course, critically, how is it looking in the battle around P20? Jamie Knight, don't forget, has just retired from the race. Now, critically, he will just hang on to that P19 because he's
classified.
He will get classified based on distance complete, I do believe, unless there's a requirement he has to come back out and take the checkered flag. I should probably have clarified that with race control beforehand. Critically, who are we looking at? Back into the top 20, falling in or falling back towards that that line. The driver's just on the outside. There you go. Mark Poynton now holds P20 by his lonesome, not tied up. As I've just heard, safety cars in the pit lane. We're about to go. Well, we're going green at the hands of Scott Gamble here. To wait to get back underway here for a 4-lap sprint race. 10 weeks of racing, a couple of 1,000 kilometers of it all up. Going to come down to an almighty dash is the answer. Get ready to see how late will Scott Gamble wait as he comes through Lorenzo, and he's looking to build the speed, I think. Yeah, he's going, and we are back green here at Jerez. Final race of the season, has 4 laps left in it here as we go going once more.
So, into turn 1 we come. Nice clean start from everybody, all single file. Although I do see that Dean Flavelle was losing a little bit of time there. Probably not quite on the mark when things got accelerated up. But you see Latham is already right on the back of Miller. Latter is sticking with them. Van der Kraan hanging back a little bit, but he could take advantage if there's a coming together for second. No surprise to see that Gamble has executed this restart perfectly, and he's already gaining on the rest of the top 5.
Boxes very nicely there. There you go in the background. Who might that be? Who's doing it? It's Christian Smart and Luke Grundle. Side by side into dry sack we go. And Grundle, little wiggle of the rears under brakes, but he's got it pulled up. Plenty of space left for the 999, who can't hang it around the outside that far out. Place gain, 16 up for Grundle into the top 10.
Brilliant stuff from Luke Grundell. He's driven a fantastic race so far, and with the field still compressed, he still has a chance. Mark Poynton and Jeff Thomas are fighting hard over 8th position at the moment, so Grundell stands a chance here to gain and gain well in these last few laps of the race. Scott Gamble has extended his gap out to a second. He gained about 6/10 on everyone else on that one lap alone. And remember, they're all on old tyres, so Gamble's making really good use of that old rubber, as Smart has to now defend on David Nash. David is certainly been trying to make up places here in the last few laps. He's up 7 spots at the moment as the fastest lap goes to Scott Gamble there right at the end. That safety car period cooled the tyres down. It allowed him to gain a bit more out of it.
I mean, yeah, that's something impressive there on the 13-lap old tyres with the safety car. You see they're just allowing everyone to reset. I mean, obviously it does mean he can take Lorenzo a little more unnaturally, at least a little differently so you would at racing pace, really focus on winding up out of that final turn. But even then, still puts it together to tick off. I'm actually really curious. If I go and have a look at him, how much has he improved his fastest lap? Is that one? Can I find his previous best?
It was about a 38.5, so he's only beaten it by, at the most, a couple of hundredths. But yeah, Gamble continuing to show why he is the champion-elect for V8 Veterans Season 19, as Damien Cairns and Rob Crisdale trading spots down at the hairpin. Crisdale, of course, on the freshest tyres of anyone, save for Chris Blanchard, but he's having some trouble getting past Cairns here.
Yeah, I thought for a second he might have made it work. And actually, they had to go the long way around at the hairpin and didn't get it pulled up. Here's the answer there as to what happens. So that explains why it's back and forth between these two. So yeah, be careful. Well, it's actually not really be careful at this point. Caution to the wind. Use every last scrap of the tyre because, yeah, I doubt he can do enough wrong to throw the tyres off this short stage. But don't quote me as a source of authority on the logic of the supercar tyres. Rick Figure and Scott McHugh. Nope, that's going to break. Right. Scott McHugh there in behind Rick Figure. That is actually for 24th and 25th on the road. He's existing in a world of his own. Meanwhile, it is now a 3-way fight for second with less than 2 laps to run.
And John Latham goes deep coming into the corner, runs wide on the way in. That'll give a bit of breathing room to Miller and another chance for Latta to make his way onto the podium here in the final round. 2nd place in the championship. And at this point, he would be wanting Gamble to finish outside the top 20, and maybe then he'd stand a chance to gain the title. But it's going to be white flag next lap. All Latta can do is fight to get into 3rd here, as Crisdale further down has finally made his way past Cairns. No, sorry, Cairns has worked his way back past. Crisdale, I think, maybe driving a bit too hard in the later stages, not getting full use of those fresh tyres. Latta is going to wind it up here, coming out of Angel Nieto and through the sweeper. Is there anything he can do to get one up on John Latham, who seems to be having trouble looking after his front tyres? The white flag is in the air, and oh, Latham runs very deep at Lorenzo, and that's going to allow Latta through into 3rd. Wheel spin problems for both of the cars there. They're both going to lose time to Miller, but Latta is going to stay ahead of John Latham coming into the 1st turn. But let's see how much of an attack John's going to have on the final lap. He wants this 3rd place.
Oh man, just as I was going to start thinking about what's happening with Matt Vanderbilt. It looks to be sort of building a bit of a train in behind him. Dan Hall back through to about Luke Rundell, even go further back, but no. Then just as we tune away, lock up from the 24 Shadow Racing machine. Allows Ken Latta through for another spot to help stem the bleeding on points here as they put the power down one last time down this back straightaway towards Drysack. Everyone knows the tail, but no major moves looking, it seems, this time by, at the front half anyways, of the order. Dave Kirby maybe lost in the shadows, close but not quite.
Yeah, not quite. There's only a few other passing opportunities towards the end of the lap here. Stephen Varga and Robbie Griffiths still fighting over P20. This is going to go all the way to the line, but up the front, there is no troubling Scott Gamble. Just a few more turns to go for him, and he can put the cherry on top of a very delicious cake he has baked this season. And I mean, what more can you say about this guy that we haven't already said? The 9.5 Sim Sports Commodore has shown up to every round, ready to fight for victory. And he has taken so many this season. It's going to be the championship for Scott Gamble in V8 Veterans Season 19, presented by RaceKraft Simulations. An absolutely fantastic drive to cap off the season. Fastest lap, pole position, led just about every lap. I mean, it was a perfect night.
I mean, the only thing that he might or might not have done is gain the 2 bonus points for no incidents in this race. And yeah, even with a 4-lap safety car sprint, he still pulls a near 4-second margin on the field behind. It seems to be a case of he couldn't put literally one misstep with an internet dropout and then an incident on his comeback charge at Le Mans in the second round of the season, and that has been the only thing that didn't go his way. Well, blemish. Apart from that, and one race that he lost to Ken Latta, 8 out of 10 wins in the season. It's just
Yeah.
Since we started covering this, we haven't seen a result that dominant.
Yeah, simply magnificent from the driver of car 543. Well, Chris Miller, finishing second place, is going to nab third place in the championship. Fantastic job from him. And the rest of the Fishy Motorsports crew, of course, Kenneth Latta with a podium will secure P2 in the standings with one win this season. Certainly can't take anything away from Ken Latta's season. He has been stressing a little bit over how exactly to beat Scott Gamble, as we've seen in interviews, but he's just driving on a perfect level for this series, and I think he can be very proud of this season.
Yeah, that he can, despite the fact that it feels like it's sort of been quite a healthy gap up front. Still been pretty solid. A couple of missteps, yes, but nevertheless, been pretty decent all the way. As I think that everyone else will peel into the pit lane. Scott throws down the rubber here on the circuit, and with that, should be safe. And yeah, we are ready now to bring up the provisional race results here from the final round.
Scott Gamble wins by 4 seconds from Chris Miller, and if it were not for the safety car, we might have seen a gap approaching 20 seconds. Ken Latta will complete the podium, secure P2 in the championship. John Latham with 4th place, a great finish for him. Matt Vanderkraan will finish in 5th spot, and he will claim 4th in the championship thanks to that result. Dan Hall with a great result for him. Great qualifying performance and up 4 spots into 6th. Michael Stewart will finish in 7th spot, 1 position down from where he started. Jeff Thomas and Mark Poynton getting into the top 10, but Luke Grundell getting a top 10 after starting in 26th position. I think we have our Chubby Bunsburgers driver of the day, Dan.
Yeah, I think that would have to do it here tonight. Generally try to avoid awarding them to the race winners where we can, and I think, yeah, to make your way up to the top 10 is certainly no mean feat in this field, so that does sound well-deserved indeed. But just down behind him, Christian Smart will have to settle for an 11th place finish here tonight in front of David Nash there in 12th, up 7 though for the 911, so a good night for Nash in the 801 sim racing car. Dean Flavell gains a spot to 13th with Chad Lewis in behind one of our cars that drops a spot down 14th to 14th place tonight at the end of that one there. Dave Kirby, Stewie Hall 15th and 16th, making some gains along the way for both of them here tonight. Unfortunately, Paul Burns, his best qualifying result that I've seen in some time, unfortunately sees him down to 17th by the end of the race. Jason Fewens up 5 to 18th for the Banter Alliance 067. 10 spots gained for Ricky Hyde, being one of our double-digit climbers in this one here tonight for 19th. And Stephen Varga going to round out the top 20 there in the 868 machine.
Both Kirby and Varga finished the race with 0 incident points. Congratulations to them. Robbie Griffiths is going to finish in 21st ahead of Greg Sharp and Darren Goosey. Rick Vigor, he certainly didn't have the best of starts to the race, had to start in the pit lane, but still finishes 24th. A great result considering all of that. McCune and Cairns ahead of Crisdale, who was the last car to make a pit stop in this race. Tried to take advantage of fresh tyres at the end, but could not overcome that. That plus a mechanical black flag is going to be something he'll think about for a while. Damon Fisher, Chris Blanchard and Michael Quain will round out the 30 cars to finish this race. Jamie McKnight, Paul Warwick and Travis Hunt unfortunately retiring, though Jamie McKnight might have done enough to be classified for points in the race. Wow. What a fantastic final round of V8 Veterans it was. And now we move into post-race coverage with talking to the top 3 and winner of the race, winner of the championship, Scott Gamble. The trophy is yours.
Yeah, how you going, Reese? Absolutely stoked. It's been a long season. It's been tough, but it's really good fun and honoured to be on that top step at the end of it, mate.
What do you think was the secret to your pace this round? Because, you know, we talk almost every time we broadcast a V8 race about the tyre drop-off and just how much pace you end up losing at the end of the stint. But I'm just curious as to how you managed to keep that pace up and keep gaining on everyone behind you, especially when you were late in the race just before the safety car.
Well, yeah, I can tell you exactly how that happened. I was probably a few tenths off where I thought I could be for this track with this set. And so today I went in and had a look at the replay of last night Pro Series. Obviously it was a 55 degree track or something, but I went in and watched Jared Filsell's line because he was running a similar gear ratio to the vet set. So I watched his lines, how he done it, and then I went into VRS and then had a look at Griffin Gardner, who is absolute elite driver as well, and compared my laps against his and found some time there as well, and just worked on, well, where was I losing time, where could I gain some time, and what lines could I change. And by doing that I gained a few tenths today.
Excellent stuff. So studying all the way up to the exam, and it's worked out really well for you. From 10 starts, you have 8 wins and 1 podium. I mean, it's been a great season for you, and I'm sure you're going to look back on this very fondly, but I know that sim racers are always looking towards the future. Obviously, we'll be expecting you to compete next season to defend your title. Yeah,
absolutely. Paid and registered for next season, season 20 of Vets. I did commit to East Coast this series, and it's been really long and hard to do it. We've got one more race of that, and then I've committed to the 10 rounds or 12 rounds of that for the season. We've obviously had Pro Series on last night, so it's been a huge week. And then there's Scop Sunday, but I don't know, I may be a little bit tired come Sunday and go and spend some time with the family, Reese.
All right, well, enjoy that, Scott. Is there anyone that you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, there is. There's a few people I'd like to go over, and for varying reasons. I'd like to thank Brenton O'Brien over at Evolution Racing Team that I was a former member of. You know, he always talked about believing in yourself, and he has this ironic knack of making you believe in yourself, and so you end up with a belief that you can go and do it. And so I'd like to thank him. I'd like to thank Jordan Ross when he was in race control. He'd done race control there at V8 Vets a few seasons ago, and something that's always stuck is when I went into race control, complain about something, he said, well, what could have you done? What could you do? And it's always resonated with me, Reese, on what can I do on track, and not worry about what anyone else is doing, but what could I do different? So I'd like to thank him, and that's been a wealth of advice. Obviously the team, we had a change of team this season over to 9-5 Sim Sports. They've been amazing. The support that they give me over there is really good, and the most organised and team that I've been with. So yeah, big shout out to them. To Jamie McKnight, thank you very much for the sets. He listened to the advice of the guys, and stuck with master cylinders, saying kept the set very similar throughout. Sometimes there was a little bit of positive toe. I don't know what's going on there, but overall the sets were really good, and yeah, he tried to keep them very similar and please everyone. So he does a lot of work with that. So thank you very much to Jamie. To Scotty Rankin over in Race Control, done an awesome effort tonight. Well done, mate. Really appreciate that, and all the Race Control and admin guys. You guys over at SimSpeed, absolutely fantastic broadcast. Love it. You and Dan do a great job here and really appreciate it, as do all the vets. To Kenny, well done. P2 on the championship again, but geez, he pushes here at time. He's a great competitor, and well done on Chris Miller tonight on his P2. That's a fantastic effort, and all the drivers. Thank you very much. And I'm sure there's others I've forgotten, Reese, but you know, just thank you. It's been really good, and enjoyed this season.
As did we. 1,480 points in the end for Scott Gamble, who takes away the Season 19 championship in RaceKraft V8 Vets. Second place on the road and third in the championship. Dan, Chris Miller's with us.
That he is, and well, it's been a while since we've had a chat to you on a podium, Chris, but a very nicely done job here tonight. But with that kind of a late race safety car and having like Ken and others there looking to have a scrap to try and finish things off, how was that being able to hold down the position at the end?
Well, let's put it this way. I know what the early settlers felt like. So, because I reckon I was in more shit than them. So, because, the tyres, I was comfortable. I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, John, I think, was struggling for incident points. And I had about 3 or 4 seconds back to Ken. So, just before that safety car, I thought, this is, if I just keep it consistent, I'll be sweet. And then, yep, the dreaded safety car call. So
I can see here, speaking of incident points, you're looking pretty comfortable. It didn't have had plenty to work with there at the end. Was that sort of something in the back of your mind, given you said there for other drivers you were believing that some drivers might have been pushing limits? I can see definitely, for example, John Latham was pretty close to the limit.
John Latham, had one to go, and he was Gornsky, and I think Kenny was up there, and a few of the others. But yeah, I saved them up, so to speak, and used them pretty much. I think I used about 4 or 5 in that last, well, between the safety flag and the safety car and the flag, because it is quicker, obviously. You go off track, but yeah, I saved them up and I used them then just so I could get a bit of a break on John, and then he threw it into the last corner, and I thought she was game over, to be honest, because I was watching the smoke coming towards me. So
I think we might have missed that one there, unfortunately. But obviously, a great work from you here to round off the season, gaining a couple of spots to get on the podium, and yeah, second place here in the race, third place in the season as well. After you, been a pretty solid season overall. How's that felt when you think back on the past 10 weeks?
Yeah, look, I just wanted to be consistent, but not necessarily the fastest getting around there. Obviously, Gamble and Kenny are just streets ahead. So, and the credit to those boys, it's just crazy stuff. But yeah, it was just more about being consistent. My goal was to try and be around the top 10 for the season. And I thought if I could sit around that top 10, then I'd be in a good shape for not qualifying. But then I didn't realise that the pre-quals are all different now. But yeah, I just thought if I stayed around that top 10, I'd be in for a shot with P3, but in the championship. But I think Mike Whiting was away for his birthday tonight, so I reckon if he was here, it might be a different story, because he was just super quick, the big fish.
That is true. Unfortunately, missing him there tonight would have been another driver to have up at the pointy end of things, and another podium perhaps to his name. But it's yours for here tonight, and well, we now get a couple of weeks off before season 20. Will we see you back first of all? And if we do see you back, what are we looking forward to, or perhaps aiming for, when the racing gets back underway next month?
Definitely coming back, but I don't think I'll touch the sim for a couple of weeks. Work and life are getting in the road a little bit with the sim time. So, but yeah, I think I'll just finish the season tonight. I'll have a couple of weeks off, or whenever it starts again, and then get back into it and just do the same thing. Just try and be consistent, and try and be up to pointy and
well, pointy end of the race achieved here tonight and for the championship as well. Chris, the floor's all yours to thank you and everyone who get it done in the 666 machine.
Perfect. First of all, the Fishy boys, Mike Whiting, obviously the boss there, and since I've come over into Fishy a couple of seasons ago, it's been amazing. But generally all the boys at Fishy, my training partner, Paulie Warwick, he's a lot of fun. All the Fishy boys, a lot of support there and good fun and laughs. Sponsor-wise, West End Motor Group, Infinity Designs, DC Shades, Battery Warehouse, Early Beach, and Precision Sim Training.
Well, there we are. Chris Miller, second place on the podium here tonight, Reece, and that leaves us with one final driver to chat to on the podium, Ken Latta, here with you now.
Indeed. Congratulations on grabbing a podium there, Ken. Certainly had to fight for it in the last few laps, and on your way to second place in the championship, getting on the podium to finish off the season.
Yeah, it was a bit touch and go there, and I got past Chris earlier in the piece and then just decided not to select fourth gear and went off into the dirt, and that didn't help things at all, but obviously the safety car brought us close at the end there, and fortunately enough for myself, John made a mistake and was able to get up onto the podium so I could chat to you guys for one last time for this season.
Yeah, indeed. Looking back on your season as a whole, you come away from it with one win to your name, so you're still one of the top drivers in this series. I suppose, you know, looking back on things, it's another strong campaign.
Yeah, I think overall it's been a fairly strong season for myself, and you know, Scotty was just on another level through most of the season, you know, so congrats to him, really. He did a wonderful job all season long. And I don't know, go back to the drawing board, maybe look at my setup a little bit, how things are set up, and see if we can sort of change things around maybe a little bit for next season. It might help.
Indeed. Well, regardless, still, runner-up, one win, 8 podiums. You've always been at the top end of the field. So, yeah, looking forward to next season, I suppose.
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm going to have a bit of a break. I think hopefully we got a couple of weeks. I could use the break and hopefully come back with a bit more of a fresh mindset and feeling fresh for another season. And hopefully, you know, maybe we might see some new faces and have a few more people fighting for the top spot, which would make it interesting.
Yeah, indeed. Well, the competition has certainly been great in V8 Veterans, and you've been up the top there. What are your roster of shout-outs to give here before we let you go?
Well, obviously, well done to Scotty. He did a wonderful job on the championship. And Chris Miller, he drove absolutely fantastic tonight. And, you know, it's always great watching the broadcast back, and, you know, it's something that I always enjoy. And Race Control did a wonderful job all season long. So, you know, you got to take your hat off to them.
Yeah.
And, yeah, sorry.
Go on, mate. Go on, Ken.
Yeah, and just all the guys who do all the background work for this particular series. It is run quite well, and you know, got hats off to them as well. Jamie for the setups, and of course our sponsors, West End Motor Group, Infinity Design, DC Shades, Battery Warehouse, Early Beach, Precision Sim Training, and then all the guys at Fishy. Thank you.
And thank you, Ken, for joining us in the comms box here for one final chat. That's going to conclude things for V8 Veterans Season 19, Dan. Man, what a season it was. What a championship finale. Scott Gamble, truly the star of this season, though. As we've said, just a brilliant run to a well-deserved championship victory.
Yeah, that it was. And let's bring up the provisional championship standings here at the end of these 10 weeks of racing here tonight. And in fact, all saying that, there's only a couple of small bonuses, which, as you said, only go the way of Stephen Varga and Dave Kirby tonight for no incidents, as well as the points penalty, which we don't know the exact amount for Chad Lewis. So the only 3 variables, I do believe, that need to be accounted for. So this is pretty decent of a number here in terms of how things have laid out. And critically, it means we're looking at who is back for season number 20 automatically in split 1 at least. So Scott Gamble, Ken Latta, Chris Miller, top 3. Matt Vanderkraan able to make his way up to P4 with Dan Hall mustering his way up into the top 5 to end the season off. Christian Smart, unfortunately, wasn't able to go with Matt Vanderkraan there. We'll have to settle for 6th place at the end of it all here this evening. Dean Pavel to P7. Jeff Thomas in behind, makes up a couple of spots to P8. Just ahead of Chad Lewis there for 9. And Dave Kirby up and rounding out our top 10. And critically, Scott, we are going to be joined by these next 10 drivers at this stage who will be with us, at least on automatic invites for season number 20.
Indeed. We'll expect all of these drivers and then some in the next season of V8 Vets yet to come. The 20th season already getting prepared for. We are going to bring that action to you on SimSpeed TV as per usual. These are all the guys who are going to have to requalify for the championship, but still, big shout out to every single driver who's competed in V8 Vets over the course of this season. They're difficult cars to drive, it's hard racing, and certainly an achievement to even get to the end of one of these races. So, with all of that being said, that's going to be goodbye from us here at SimSpeed TV as we will give you the date here, mark it in your calendar, the 20th of June. Split 1 coverage will continue here on SimSpeed TV on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. No matter what platform you've come from, we want to thank you for joining us for this broadcast. Big thanks to all of the sponsors of V8 Vets here, Player One Sim Gear, Nova, Logitech, Parramatta, Isuzu Ute, and of course Chubby Buns Burgers bringing us the Driver of the Day award. And last but not least, RaceKraft Simulations, title sponsor of this series. Make sure to check them out. I'm Reese Gardner, Dan Yeaman with me in the comms box. This has been V8 Vets Season 19 here on SimSpeed TV.
Before we go, Reese, I just realised one last thing. Shout out to Luke Grundell, as we did say, confirm him as the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day for this final round of the season to wrap things off. And yeah, up to P10. But with that said and done, we can sign off here. It looks like, unfortunately, Luke can't join us this evening. So yeah, once again, as Bruce said there, thank you all very much for watching, guys. Hope to see you back on Thursday, the 20th of June.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.